Hi, I'm Jonny Holland, ex-Munster Rugby player. This is the 1% Better podcast with Rob at the Green.
Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the 1% Better podcast with your host, Rob O'Donoghue.
Hello there, and welcome to the second episode of the second season of the 1% Better podcast. This is Rob O'Donoghue. I'm delighted to have you along for this episode. If it's the first time you've heard the podcast, brilliant. Great to have you along. Just as an FYI, you have 50 plus hours to catch up on of season 1 and the first episode of season 2. So lots of listening for you over the next while, just saying. And if it's a return listener that you are, that is brilliant. Thanks for coming back, and I am sure you're going to enjoy this episode with Jonny Holland. Just also FYI, I am bunged up a little bit, so hopefully that's not annoying your listening pleasure. It's annoying my speaking pleasure, and still can't seem to crack this, what I call the podcaster's curse. Maybe one day, maybe the weather's getting better and I'll start to breathe normally through my nose and mouth again. But anyway, the feedback from last week's show. The intro episode went down very well. I started to play with video. That's been well received, surprisingly. Last year I was scared about my own voice. This year, my own face. But that's part of the learning and development, and I'll continue to do it from now and again. Hopefully it'll continue to get better as I learn how to put it together in a more presentable way. In general, feedback's good. Been told I'm being ambitious with a lot of the things I'm planning. Same as last year, but I'll give it a shot. Probably can't get it all done, but we'll certainly try and do lots of it. I did get some feedback positively around the idea of the pro bono coaching, so check out the support page on the website or listen to last week's episode. And on the flip side of that, there is now a more structured way in which you could support the show through the Patreon page. Check it out on the support page, or buy your books through Amazon on the Amazon link on my page. And anything that comes in to the show will go into trying to make it better, for sure, I promise. In the last week myself, I've recorded a couple of new episodes. One with Steve Lennox, who's a consultant. He's a dual citizen. We talk about America and Ireland and the relationships that are there and his journey. Very interesting one, and it was timely as he was in Cork and it was Paddy's weekend, so that worked out. And secondly, I had a really interesting conversation with Jim Breen. So Jim is the mastermind behind Cycle Against Suicide, and we talked at length about his own journey over the last number of years, focusing on challenges he's faced around depression and how he's overcome it, how he deals with it, and tools and techniques he uses. Those two are going to come out in the next month or so. Excited to put them out there. Really interesting ones. I know I say that about all of them. I hope most of them are all interesting to you, but particularly enjoyed those couple in the last week. All right, on to this week's first proper guest of the season, and it is Jonny Holland. So timely in that Ireland have just completed the Grand Slam. Well done to the team if any of them are listening. Congratulations. If you'd like to come on to the podcast, please let me know. I'm delighted to introduce Jonny Holland as this week's guest. So Jonny is a retired Irish rugby player who was making a serious impact with the Munster Rugby team in Ireland, and that Munster is a province in Ireland for those in the US maybe listening, before having to prematurely end his career at the age of 25. So Jonny had a serious injury where the hamstring came off the bone, and that forced him to an early retirement. Since then, Jonny has turned his focus to nutrition and wellness and has started to build up a successful career in this space. As you'll hear, he's applying the same focus, meticulous attention to detail and preparation to this new venture as he did in his playing career. This was the first episode I recorded for season 2 back in early January. It was an awful lot of fun talking to Jonny about his career. Thanks to Jake for actually making the connection happen. It is obvious that he's a focused, determined guy, and he's really only stepping into a new chapter that has a long way to go, and I'm sure lots of success will come knowing how he prepares and focuses. Please do hang on to the end of the show where you hear the new outro where I touch on a few things that I touched on in episode 1 if you haven't heard that. If you do enjoy this episode and come back for more, it would be great if you subscribed on iTunes or if you followed me on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram. All the links are at the end of the show, in the show notes, or on my robofthegreen.ie site. Okay, I shall leave it there and hand it over to the awesome conversation with Jonny Holland. Thanks so much and have a great day. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the 1% Better podcast into season 2, and I'm delighted to be here with Jonny Holland. Jonny, welcome to my studio, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on it.
Delighted to have you here. So where are things with you right now, Jonny? What's going on for you, and what's happening in your world right now?
So I'm just after setting up my own website for nutrition and health and wellness consultations and talks and things like that. So trying to get that off the ground is one of the things I'm doing. I'm still working the 9 to 5 at the moment, and I'm coaching con a couple of times a week and weekends. So it's kind of busy at the moment, but it's a bit exciting now. Something to look forward to, kind of growing going forward. So it's hopefully he'll get a lot busier.
Yeah, you're definitely busy because this is a Sunday morning, and I'm taking you away from Mass, which is something I feel bad about. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about that.
We'll try and keep it to the duration of Mass so nobody knows you skipped it today. Jonny, what I normally do in the podcast, we have a bit of a look back at your early stages, where you're at now, and I suppose the future, and then we'll kind of blast through some kind of questions that might be useful in the whole 1% better mindset that some listeners could apply to their own lives. Sound good?
Yeah, very good, yeah.
So one I really like to ask, earliest memory. Do you have an earliest memory?
Ever?
Yeah, ever. What comes to your mind there? Throwing this at you.
Jeez, I don't know.
Anything
earliest? I feel you think you have memories that you just don't have at all. They come from photos. But memories, I have no idea. I have the worst memory ever as well.
What does it have, if you think back, is there anything that you kind of look back on, I suppose, from an early age that stands out?
I can see myself kicking a ball off the wall anyway.
Right.
Whether that's in a video or not, I don't know. But
a rugby ball?
Soccer ball.
Oh.
Yeah, I always had a soccer ball with me everywhere, trying to get my brother to kick it back to me, which didn't always happen. He'd get bored after 5 minutes and I'd be kicking off the wall for the next hour. So something like that anyway. Yeah,
no, again I ask because it's what I try to do is see if there's a connection with that earliest memory and what the person has done later in life. So there's a ball involved anyway. So
there always was, yeah.
There's certain there. So yeah, was that something? So growing up, what was it? What was the focus from an early age that you
yeah, like
had?
Even if we were hanging around with some of the lads or whatever, and you're hanging around the park, and then you decide to go to the shop or you decide to walk away somewhere else. As always, I was left with the ball, like the wet, mucky ball. No one else wanted to keep, and I'd have to hang on to that. But I probably wanted anyway, so I was just stuck with that one: rugby balls and soccer balls. But yeah, there was always something like that involved, always some sport or some hanging around and activity going on.
Did you, some people wanted to be a lawyer or a pilot or that sort of stuff. Was it sport in your mind?
Yeah, I remember thinking, when you go through school and someone asks you what you want to do, and I always thought, I'll do something in sport. But then I kind of realised there's not much money in sport. There is for a small amount of people, and there's not for others. So I think because of sport, and I thought, I might be a physio. And then, I don't know, these are just thoughts that come into your head. I never really thought about what I wanted to be that much, But I was always playing a lot of sport, so that was the kind of natural thing to come into my head, that I do something surrounded by sport. But and then I kind of, then you go through school and you kind of realise it was business. I was kind of business minded. My brother was kind of more art and drawing and whatever that was. So that wasn't me. So we were kind of different that way. But it was kind of business stuff that was thinking about more.
And your career in school, career guidance, were they kind of directing you down that sort of path? Was there anyone saying sport not really realistic, or did that just something you kind of were coming to yourself?
No, I think people would say that to you, that you're interested in sport, but everyone is interested in sport, and you see fellas thinking I'll do. Everyone had that thought at some stage, I'd say, do something in sport because they played so much, and you're a lad anyway. You probably would have played a lot yourself, and you can't get your mind off the soccer matches and things. So I think everyone gets that kind of idea at some stage, and then you kind of mature a bit and realise that you've got to make money somewhere, and that's not always the easiest place to make it. So you change your mind a bit.
Yeah, I think I remember thinking back to about 14, 15, I was football, soccer. I grew up in Longford and we didn't, have a huge Gaelic
you didn't have much, did
you? Hurling wasn't the big option either. So soccer, like Longford Town, soccer was big and would have played a lot. But I think I came to that harsh realisation when I was about 16 that I wasn't going to get trials. I wasn't going to get over the water. And I needed to maybe put all my attention on studies and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's always that kind of break point that you have to do it. But obviously your career did go down the sport route. Was there a point, I suppose, first of all, was there a point where rugby became the number one over kicking a soccer ball? Or
yeah, it did. And I don't think I ever thought, my career now will be rugby. I kept going, I did my leaving cert and I went on to college. Doing the two side by side was never I'll drop this now because I'll become a rugby player. That doesn't happen to many people, so I kept studying. But yeah, in my earlier teenage years, I suppose soccer was the main one, and rugby was always there, and I was probably always strong at rugby anyway, so it never went away. But kind of 14, 15, I realised the soccer wasn't really for me. Had too much of a temper for it, I think. And I just liked the kind of I got more into Gaelic football as well, because at least there's a bit of aggression in that. You can hit some shoulders and get a bit rougher. And rugby was a good one because I actually, people wouldn't believe it, but I did enjoy tackling anyway when most fellas were around the same size as me. But that kind of changes as you go, grow older and go professional. There's some big lads there.
Okay, so that became the number one, I suppose,
definitely.
around that. During those years, was there influences that you had that kind of maybe started to spot some talent in you, or to say you could start making it? Does anyone kind of come up?
Tony Mulcahy was the coach in Sunday as well, one of the coaches, and I remember him saying out the back of a drill to another coach, he's going to be whatever he said, I don't know, he's going to be decent.
You overheard him say this?
I overheard him say it, but I was like, what's he on about, I didn't really want to believe it. But I don't know, fellas you'd know when you've got something that you score a nice goal or a nice try and people will be talking about you a little bit, but you never get too carried away with your own hype. It's,
some might do though, but
some do, but I don't think you should. So you might hear one or two of those things, but you kind of dampen it straight away because you don't really believe it. You might think, that was nice, but I'm not the best player in the world.
It's interesting that instance you just mentioned there. You can overhear somebody talking about how it kind of sticks out sometimes. You would remember. You remember that. Sometimes you remember. I'm probably more on the negative side. I remember somebody saying he's not gonna get that far. Maybe he might get trials with Wimbledon in the 90s. But
I remember it because he said something about he'll go on to play with Munster or something like that. And it just really stuck with me because Munster at that stage for me and my brother and my dad and my family, we were definitely my brother and my dad, we'd go to all the games in Musgrave Park, and we were kind of we're not obsessed with it, but we were mad into it. Munster players were idols for myself and my brother, over here it was kind of I got nearly a fright being don't mention me in that sentence, but so it was that's probably the reason it sticks out to me, because I remember thinking it was quite flattering.
Absolutely, and in a strange way it could have planted that seed in your head that gave you maybe some of that belief as well. Yeah,
definitely a little bit of belief, and kind of realise that things will start to get a bit more serious in the next couple of years, and that you wouldn't be too far away from it. So it was, if you do then go on to kind of that representative stuff, you don't feel like you're out of place completely, because you've kind of heard one or two of those mumblings at some stage before.
Yeah. No, he said it, so it must be true.
Yeah.
So you said early stages, I suppose, different positions on the pitch, but you got fly half became your main spot. At what point did you start really kind of moulding into that role?
I think I don't know, do you get a position in rugby at about 12 or 13? And I was always a back anyway, because I was always smaller and a little bit of jinky runs. But when I was probably under 14, 13, that kind of thing, I played a bit of first centre and out half, but I wasn't really first centre and out half. It was everyone in the line running around. We were just the second person to get the ball if you were first centre. You were first if you were 10. Right. And I remember Luke Duffy, who is out in Cork now with me as a player, played a lot of 10. So I was in and out of 10 and 12 with him. We'd kind of swap around a bit.
Okay.
But then it was 10 after that until I went to college. And then there's a lot of competition in college. Like the under 20 team that I went into, I was a year young going to school, so we had the Munster under 20s players going into first year, as well as some of us who were Munster under 19. And you had the likes of Kevin Kidney out half there, who was he was the year above me in representative rugby. It was going to be tough to get him out of position, so I started that year about 3 or 4 weeks late with an injury.
Okay.
So I got back late and had to play a couple of games of full back, and then I went into 10 after that. But I still played a couple of games with Con a couple of years later at full back every now and then, but you could nearly count them on one hand. Like, it wasn't too many of them. It was nearly all at 10.
Okay. So Stan started to get really into that role or that position on the pitch. From a kicking perspective, then was that something you had a natural ability with, or? I
think kicking out of hand was my main strength. I would have been fairly accurate and fairly comfortable with the ball in hand. Kicking at the post wasn't something I was as comfortable with. It's different to schools rugby. Like, I still had a bit of coaching out in Sun as well, but it was not as structured as the schools kind of set up. And it's difficult to kick the ball off a tee. People don't understand that. They think you just step back and hoof it, and then someone will ask you for a go at a tee, and they realise it's not. Like, there's actually more timing involved in it.
Yeah.
But it was something I had to practice a lot on my own. And I remember my dad would kick balls back to me, and my brother and my dad would come out kicking with me. And it was just kind of me and my brother kicking around and my dad kicking them back. But when I went into college, then Gary Byrne did a lot of actual structured kicking with me, and that kind of helped me. And on to Munster with Ian Costello, but I was always probably a little bit behind on my kicking at goal, so it was a bit of catch up. Even though I was like, I could strike a soccer ball and I could strike a football off the ground as well, but striking a rugby ball was just a little bit different, and it took me a bit of time to catch up, I'd say.
Did the kind of practice that you were doing before you got the structured practice, it's like anything, I suppose, if you develop the habit in a bad way, it's hard to deconstruct it.
Yeah, it's bad practice, but you get, like, if you practice anything enough, it doesn't matter how bad your practice is, you'll probably find a good technique for you somewhere in between, and you'll get consistent to a certain degree with it. Maybe it's not optimal, but you'll become half decent.
Right.
Now you can help yourself with better practice, and that's what you learn as you go to kind of academies and professional rugby, that there's better ways to practice.
Okay.
But you're not going to be doing too badly once you are practicing for hours anyway. Right. Nobody teaches a young fella how to kick the ball off the wall or kick it so many times before he gets good at it. Like, you're going to do it your own way, and that's why we grow up to be a bit individual, I would say.
Okay. But there wasn't, when you did get into the more structured, was it just tweaking your
like, there's some non-negotiables in terms of kicking, and you have to kind of get them right, and then you leave a guy be as individual as you can if he's kind of ticking some of the boxes that you have to tick, and then you let him have his own style, or no one's going to kick the ball the same anyway, so if you don't have to correct it, don't bother. But if there's a certain thing that he's getting wrong in terms of consistency, then maybe you can correct that and mould it slightly differently.
Yeah. How much of it is mental versus the actual?
Yeah, there's a lot of it, I'd say. Like, I'd say to fellas still that, and we'd agree on it, like guys out in Corkhan that are kicking, that you could have the worst warm-up of all time, but you could just get into match mode and you could kick very well, and it can go the other way around as well. So you might get to a place where you're kicking and you're just in a flow and it doesn't stop, but there's also times where you have to kind of win the mental challenge, and if you forget about the mental challenge as well, when you're kicking well, you'll miss one, and then you can spiral into a couple of misses. So you always have to be on top of the mental battle, I think.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the book or series of books, The Inner Game? There's a guy called Tim Galway is his name. There's the inner game of golf, there's the inner game of tennis, and he talks about it's all, you're playing against the opponent, but the biggest opponent you have is in your head.
Yeah.
And how to actually overcome a lot of that. Like, did you develop a process then of getting in the zone or in the flow state, or?
I would have worked on some processes, and I would have read some books as well, definitely. But I would have something that I told myself for a while was, you don't miss 2 in a row. So that was a nice way to guarantee yourself nearly that you're going to get the next one. So if you miss, like, I definitely, like any other young player, if I missed a kick, I would have missed the second one as well, because my head would go down.
Right.
But then I kind of got to a stage where I got really into the mentality of things, and that was just something I kept saying to myself, you don't miss 2 in a row. And that kind of helped me. It kind of gives you false confidence nearly stepping up to the tee.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've missed one already, but I'm actually good enough at this stage that I don't miss 2. I rarely miss 2, and so they're not going to be 2 in a row. You know, so that's something that I kind of reassured myself with, whether it was false confidence or not. It kind of helped me mentally.
It worked.
It worked for a bit anyway at times.
Yeah, no, again, that book I think talked about golf, and it was like, I think the brain doesn't understand the word not.
Yeah.
And basically if you're hitting off the tee and you're saying, I'm not going to put this in the bunker, no way, and it just says I'm bunker and it's there, and it, you know, again, I've tried it and still put it in there sometimes, but it certainly does help.
Like Cozzy I would have told Cozzy that one out loud, Ian Costello, at a certain stage when I was kicking, and he said, I like what you're doing, but you just got to change the words around a bit to make it a bit of a positive connotation. So I would have worked a lot on being positive, and definitely I had the voice in the back of my head when I was missing a kick that my head would go down, so I had to work a lot on the positivity of things, and that's something that I was probably getting into the right state of mind, but he just kind of tweaked it a small bit to make sure that the statement was a bit more positive. I can't even remember what way I had it and what way he changed it to, but I think he said you always get the next one, whereas I was saying you don't miss 2 in a row. Some slight differences, but
the don't part I think is the negative downward.
Exactly, yeah.
You always is kind of much more
you always
forward.
get the next one. So that was kind of a learning with Cozzy, and they kind of I would try and keep the thoughts in my head more positive then. No, that's cool. I'm fascinated about all of that stuff. So then I guess, when was the big break from, you were in college when you got, before you, I suppose you made your Munster A debut in 2011? Deep research done last night. So, but was there a breakthrough moment that stands out? Do you recall, or was it kind of a gradual? No, I think I was a slow burner anyway. I never had the overnight success that people would kind of speak about with Conor Murray's and people like that. Even though it's not an overnight success, like, these people are working hard behind the scenes, but there's always that kind of game where people say he's arrived, and I'm not sure if I really had that. Maybe if I was still playing, some people would call it the Leinster game, but I had played a couple of games before that I was quite happy with, and Leinster was the biggest game I played, to be fair, and people will probably speak about that one, but I was definitely a slow burner. I played a couple of games before I got injured, and I played a good few A games where I was happy enough with my performances, like, but then I came back after the injury and I kind of played another few games. People had heard of me, but they didn't know how much I was about, you know, so maybe it wasn't as much an overnight one, but I was kind of just growing into the role a bit more, and the selection for the Leinster game was probably Axel giving me the confidence to know I nearly had my hands on the jersey a small bit, so people probably took me a bit more seriously after that selection. Okay,
cool. When you said, though, when you went from UCC to the Munster setup, what stood out straight away of the difference, the step up in professionalism, and was there things that kind of, wow, this is a next level?
Yeah, I think, like, when you're in the sub-academy and the academy, you're nearly cannon fodder for the senior sessions, and if they needed to plug the opposition with numbers, then you go in, and you might go to, that's a bit unfair as well, like they'd bring you to skill sessions where the Cork lads might be doing a skill session, so they bring a couple of academy lads to it. And I remember doing a session with all the senior team who I'd never seen properly before on a pitch side by side, so it was a real realisation moment where Peter Stringer and Ronan Lagarde were coming up and saying, hi, I'm Peter, or hi, I'm Ronan, and you're kind of like laughing at yourself, saying, I know, I followed you forever. So that was kind of a realisation moment. That was out in Musgrave Park, and I remember being like, geez, am I actually in these circles, like, you know, and the lads are taking me seriously doing the skill session and demanding a lot out of me as if I'm good enough to do it, you know. They're not just leaving me drop a ball because I'm one of the young fellas. They'd actually demand you to not drop it. So you kind of realise when you're going to those sessions and you're interacting with guys like that you're not too far from fitting in. Yeah,
and obviously they would have had to walk your path at one stage as well. So I presume it's an ethos or just a kind of
you don't understand that as much as you're about to get in there, that they're going to help you so much. But when you get into that situation, you're only happy to help everybody else coming up as well in the academy and things. So I think it's just a bit of a culture that's driven that you do help the young fellas, and you know, they never think that some young fella's going to take their place anyway, so they're only happy enough to help and develop everybody like that. And kind of it's kind of a self-fulfilling thing as well, that you're helping people around you, so that makes the player feel good too. You know, so it's and
you're on the same team effectively anyway, and all going for the one goal.
Exactly.
So you know, it all like, you know, it's like thinking if you have a new boss at work, they better in their interest want to look after you, and because they're going to be doing the stuff to make them successful.
Exactly.
You kind of sometimes forget that in all different ways. Sacrifices in those years through college, you're smiling there. So obviously out and about. Was there much of a sacrifice did you sense around then, or was there things that pissed you off?
No, like I would have. Yeah, the things pissed me off, right? But I mean, I would have sacrificed quite a bit socially when I didn't have to. But that's the way I dealt with it. I was very kind of. I was probably a bit uptight in terms of preparing for things, like the training week and matches at the weekend. I remember in first year college, I might have gone out on the Tuesday if we had a match on the weekend. Loads of fellas would have been happy enough to go out to Thursday, and I just wouldn't have been.
Right.
So they were, and kind of going to 18s around that time, I would have gone to them, but I wouldn't have been drinking like other fellas would have been. So that's not a prerequisite to become a professional player, but that's just the way I dealt with it. And I would have sacrificed quite a bit. I just kind of get obsessed with the process of things, and I don't like to. I hate doing things wrong, so it's that kind of takes over me a small bit. Like other fellas are much more relaxed, and that's the way they deal with it, and they have to probably get into social circles, whereas I was the other way around, and there's no right or wrong for you. It's just how you like to deal with it. But even later years, like myself and Chloe trying to book trips, and I just wouldn't have been comfortable getting in the way of a potential game or something. So I was probably tough enough to deal with at times. Even like arguments at home about food and what's the best food for me to be having, I just got really uptight about needing everything to be perfect. That's the way I had to deal with it. That stood to me, but it definitely isn't the reason I was a professional rugby player. Like I could have done things a lot easier and made things easier for family around me as well, but that's just the way I was.
But you probably take that approach in everything you do? Probably.
I like to try and do it as best I can, so
leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, I wouldn't change it, but I definitely would try not to have as many arguments with people.
The process, so was that like a self-developed one?
Absolutely. Yeah. No one tells you the process. The process is probably your academy schedule, and then you make your own way of dealing with it, or how you prepare, what you eat beforehand, how you do your extras, and who you interact with while you're doing it. So that's something that I got kind of really into, especially during my injury. The process became everything for me, and I got completely obsessed with it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I just never shut off. It was always, if I was watching TV with Chloe and she got up to go to the bathroom or something, I'd be on the floor stretching, or I'd be pausing it at a certain time, 8:30 on the dot, to get my last snack in before bed. So that wrecked her head, and rightly so. But that I just couldn't get away from that, you know.
Yeah. The meticulousness of it all. There's I'm a bit OCD myself, so I see there's kind of similar. Probably.
Yeah, I was actually speaking to the physio in Con last night. We were driving in from Armagh after a match, and he was nearly afraid to say it, but he's calling me OCD nearly, and I was like, I'm not OCD. I think I just like to control things, but I don't. Yeah. I'd like to think I'm not OCD. Like OCD for me, people are like, I have to put my right hand in front of my left hand.
Yeah. I think there's positive OCD.
Yeah, right? But I think it's definitely a control factor that I like to be in control of my own situation.
And do you think can you, like, any times building up to a game where that preparation didn't go well, or something you had forgot or just threw you off? Did it, do you think, have a material impact on the game?
No, I try not to. Like, even though I had my process and my routine and things like that, I was definitely into the fact that you can be mentally strong enough that you could go out and draw a pair of slippers and do the same job if you had to. Right. That you're strong enough to overcome that. And maybe when I was a bit younger, I had to have this, like, you'd same body warmer on, and if you don't have that one, you'd be thinking, I won in this one the last time. I think that's a bit of immaturity that a lot of people go through when they play sport.
It's not superstitious, like.
I definitely wasn't the most superstitious person, but like I would definitely have gone to the opposite side of that. Whereas I'd say, like, just because I don't have the same socks under my socks, I'm not going to play badly because of that. Like, and trying to become mentally strong enough to deal with things around you. You can't control everything.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can control how you prepare, what you bring to the game or whatever, but you can't control traffic on the way to the match in the team bus. You can't control how many exact minutes you have to kick beforehand. So you have to try and become mentally strong enough to deal with that, and I'd like to think I was able to deal with it anyway.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you certainly were, and it's a good insight into the kind of mentality around it. When you were, I just want to maybe talk about your full debut.
Yeah.
Does that stand out different to other matches, it does.
Yeah.
Because as I was just saying, you were talking about the kind of progression, and I just wanted to see what was different, and like what are the kind of things you prepared for in that way? Was there anything different you prepared for that game?
No, I don't think I would have prepared differently. I remember running onto the pitch against Cardiff. I think that was my debut away from home, and I would have. I just felt it was very surreal getting on the pitch.
Right.
I remember sitting on the bench against, I don't know, was it Connacht or someone in Thomond Park. I remember thinking, looking on the pitch from that level, it was like looking at a game of FIFA or something. It just looked very surreal to me. But in terms of my first full start, I don't think I would have. I wouldn't have prepared any different. It's actually probably easier to prepare for your start a game, because you know you have to do it from minute one, whereas sitting on the bench is actually quite tough. You don't know when you're going to have to kick into gear, and it's hard to stay completely focused all the time, but you don't know when you're going to have to come on and do the business. So starting from minute one, you just get your head around it, that you're the man in the middle, you've got to perform or you're coming off. So it was definitely, starting games was easier than coming off the bench.
You would hear that a lot. You played Zebra, and that's where you scored your first, I suppose that was your first game where you kind of announced yourself.
Yeah, I suppose there was a tough win that day, and I kicked was a 5 from 5. I won a tough kick into a very blustery Thomond Park, and that video that got a bit of attention. So it was a nice one. But it was still Zebra, and it was like we expect to win, and it wasn't a big deal. Like we had a nice day as a team, and I kicked well, so I was happy with it. But I certainly didn't expect for it to land me in a starting position against Leinster. So
that was just a week later, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I was happy to do my thing against Zebra, but it's still in the back of my mind. Like it was great, but it was still in the back of my mind that they're one of the worst teams in the league. Like it wasn't going to.
Do you think that might have had a less of a pressure on you because of your mentality, thinking they're not as good? So you
I think it works both ways. Like if you don't play well, you've not played well against Zebra. If you play well, you've played well against Zebra. So it doesn't really work for the player in a way. But at the same time, it was a massive learning curve for me. We were into a very bad wind in the second half, and I remember kicking the touch and getting 10 metres, and fellas patting me on the back, delighted with me. So it was. I just kind of felt like I was the guy in control in the middle of the pitch, and it wasn't a weak team we put out either. Like Conor Murray played at 9. I remember Earlsey was in the centre, I think, and it definitely wasn't a weakened team, and that's where I got my initial confidence from, because there was a bit of pressure on us, and sometimes the Zebra game was nearly a glorified A game. But that's not the team we put out, so that was the first bit of confidence I got. I was Zebra, but I was still inside in the main bulk of the team, so it was good for me still.
Very good. Did you get nervous before matches? Or
absolutely.
You did?
So
that was something, there was some people would say they don't.
Yeah, and some people would have said to me that I look quite calm, but I was the opposite of calm.
Inside.
So I would have overthought a lot of things, but I'd be nervous for the week. Like I'd be nervous for the training session, and then you'd play the game and you might play well, and your nerves would calm down for Saturday night and maybe some Sunday morning, and then you've got to go review the game, get back into training for the next game, and it doesn't matter what you've done at the weekend, you have to go and play the next game well as well. So that's the kind of mindset I had, and that's probably what made me kind of nervous about it. I didn't enjoy the win for too long, but I was nervous for most of the week.
But when you were actually on the field playing, were you in a more...
No, I think once you get the first couple of plays out of the way, you start to grow into it, and like a lot of people would say that, but it definitely... I know I was nervous, but I wasn't afraid. There was a difference in it. I got to a stage as well where I really looked forward to a challenge. When I was younger, I was nervous because I was genuinely nervous, but in those kind of games after my injury, I was nervous, alright, but I couldn't wait to take it on. Like the more nervous I was, the bigger the challenge was, and that's the bigger the win was afterwards if you got it right.
Sure. There's probably a fine balance between nervous and excitement almost there.
Yeah.
That you're looking forward to it. It's a kind of pent up.
Yeah, I suppose I'd say nervous, but some of it was probably anxiety in terms of you want to get on the pitch and just get the first kick out of the way or something like that. So it wasn't all bad nerves, but it was there was a bit of energy going through me, alright, and it was kind of wasted energy on nerves and anxiety. No, that's interesting. So the injury, like in 2014, you had the hamstring injury, and you've probably talked about this 100 times, so I don't want to go too much into it. Reflecting back on it, was there anything that you could have, was there anything, just the actual injury itself, how did it happen, very briefly? I was poaching the ball at a ruck, so in a bent over position, and I was probably reaching too much at the ball because I'm not a very comfortable poacher, but I was just a bit too competitive in terms of trying to get the ball back.
Right.
As a 10, you'd see the ball available at a ruck, you might try and blast through the ruck, or you might just not bother, get around the corner and leave someone else do it.
Yeah.
But the ball was available and I couldn't leave it there. Same way when I was a young fella.
Right.
I had to get my hands on it. So
that's going back to your earliest memory there, like, you know.
Yeah, so I did try and get the ball, and I was probably a bit too kind of stretched. Now, I don't know if it would have mattered much, because I think it was Conor Carey, just playing with Connacht at the moment, came from a distance, like, was a bit open and just completely doubled me over. So how much my position would have mattered, I don't know. But I remember coming off on the stretcher and my family were on that side, and I was probably barely able to speak. I was in pain and so upset with myself, and I remember just looking over at them. Like, I knew they'd be looking at me. Like, I remember looking over and being like, it was my own fault, because I just blamed myself completely for the position I was in. But geez, I don't know if that would have mattered at all. Like, yeah.
She's tough. And you knew straight away it was something serious. Like, were you injury prone in your career ever before? Was there
I've had injuries. Like, I wouldn't say I was injury prone, and anyone who is injury prone would dispute that fact completely.
Sure.
No, I've had a couple, like, definitely,
Yeah.
but I've never had a long term injury like that.
Right.
So I never thought it was the injury that would be the end. Like, because I remember Brian O'Hara had a hamstring off the bone when we were in the academy, and he was tipped to be a very good 7, like, and he was I played with him for a while. He was very good, and I remember hearing that his hamstring was off the bone. It was kind of a 9-month job, and it's supposed to be the sorest thing you'll ever do. So when I was on the ground, I was in massive pain. There's a picture of me, and there was a picture of me on the Echo the next day, or the next week, which I didn't appreciate, but I looked like I was in a lot of pain. But I remember thinking of just where the pain was, that it wasn't from any bone. It felt like it was in the middle of my hamstring, and I felt like kind of a clawing of my hamstring nearer the bottom of it. So it was strange then, as the injury kind of went on, that it was actually from the bone at the top of my hamstring. So I didn't really believe that could be the sorest thing that ever happened, despite it being, like, very, very painful. I thought there must be something more painful, but
your threshold of pain might be higher than
I'm not sure it is. But I just thought there had to be something worse, like, and then the physio was kind of saying, if it's sore, it's a good thing, because it means it must be pulling from something that's attached somewhere. And I remember the pain going out of it in a couple of days' time, and then I got the dread of going up to the surgeon that I'm actually not feeling it anymore. That must not be a great thing, you know. Right. I knew it was a significant injury, but the fact that there was no pain, it definitely wasn't good, because that meant it was just not hanging from anything. Right.
Just very much aware of what you've talked about so far, and your kind of mental approach to things, and being in control, and, you know, focused around everything. So that, I would imagine, has helped even in the year or 9 months getting back into full fitness, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't have come back to be the player I was if I didn't get injured, I don't think. And that's you know, you can become that player in 13 months. Like, I did a 13-month rehab. I could have become that player if I just worked really hard on my game for 13 months as opposed to have to sit it out. But I just think some of the stuff I had to do to get back, and the mentality I had to get through that kind of stuff, I just feel I kind of grew as a person and as a player and as a professional as well, you know. So whether I would have done it or not, if I didn't get injured, I probably would have been alright. But I think I just got to a place mentally that I wouldn't have got to without the injury happening.
It might have accelerated that mental maturity, I suppose. What were the positives you would have taken from that period? Is there anything standing out?
Yeah, I remember thinking that this is just a massive opportunity for me now to become a man, I suppose. I was still felt I was a young fella, wasn't very big. And I just thought I'd get some meat on my bones and maybe work in some of my weak areas, like put a bit more time into kicking without having to kick at the weekend. You can really kind of focus on the practice and becoming better, as opposed to just getting by because you have to kick at the weekend anyway. And just checking your score at the weekend and seeing how much you can improve during the week. It's a different mentality and approach to what you do when you're injured. So a couple of little things like that, and by mistake I probably worked a lot on my mentality, but that was the biggest thing I got from it. I didn't go into, like, I went into the injury thinking I can get bigger here and I can get stronger and I can become a man. I can work on some of my weaker areas, my right hand passing and some of my kicking at post, but I didn't really write down that my mentality would be so strong coming back. But that's definitely the best thing that happened from it. Okay.
And then when you did come back and obviously went on to have to make the call, it was last September, October time frame when you...
It was, I really kind of, it came to a head in July 2016 into August 2016 was kind of getting scans done and speaking to specialists, but it got dragged out a small bit because just waiting for reports to come back, and I kind of knew I retired 1st September. I knew probably a couple of weeks before that it was definitely going to happen, and a few weeks before that was always on my mind that it might happen. So probably about 6 weeks there where it was up in the air, but definitely more towards the retirement.
Yeah, obviously the initial injury and the road to recovery, did that prepare you in any way for what the final decision was, or that mental toughness developed, or was it always still just a big shock when you had to kind of face
it? Was still a massive shock and heartbreaking, but I probably got to a stage where I was able to deal with the setback and try and put on a strong front if nothing else. So it definitely stood to me in terms of having to retire, but I wouldn't have wished it upon myself. I definitely wasn't strong enough to deal with it. Like, no, I don't know if anybody is. And you definitely have your moments during it, like, but I just tried to stay as strong as I could so that people around me didn't feel the negative effects of it either, because it was as tough for them as it was for me. Having to, like, it was tough for them personally themselves, but it was also tough because of the double guessing, like, how's he feeling, and then they'd feel horrendous if I ever felt poorly. So their kind of guessing nearly was as bad for them as well. So on top of them feeling bad about it, they had to feel bad about me as well. So I tried not to feel too bad about the whole situation and tried to get on with it as much as I could and put on a smile and be positive, not in a fake way, because I'd always like to be honest with people, but sometimes you just have to kind of get on with it for the sake of yourself and people around you.
No, it's a tough one. And I read, some of the articles you were saying about your identity. Jonny Holland, the rugby player, like I'm big into identity and how people define identity, because that's one part of your identity ultimately, but maybe it's the part that people recognise most. How has your identity changed over the last period of time, as we talk about now, your current situation? But what have you done, I suppose, to change that identity mentally and externally?
I think it's definitely something I struggle with, because, like, you're introducing yourself to somebody or someone's asking you what you're doing, and sometimes you just don't have an answer, and you have to say I was a rugby player, and there's only so many times you can say I was something. They're asking what you're doing. Like, they don't care about what you did. And kind of not hanging on to it as much as I could, but that's still part of me. Like, I'm always going to be the guy who played rugby, but I struggled with it, to be honest. That's one of the hardest things that I found coming out of the game, but I just kept working hard and trying to go somewhere. I found a job, and I've worked on my website now lately, and that's something that I'm probably only just getting over it now, that people are seeing me as maybe something else, that I'm interested in nutrition and I'm a nutritionist, or to some degree. So now people will say they'll think of me in that kind of light, as opposed to he did play rugby. So that's something that's evolving all the time, and this kind of latest venture is the start of me getting on with it, I suppose. During
the last couple of years, was there people that came to give you advice, guidance, mentorship? Anyone, obviously close family and friends and girlfriend. Is there others even in the game that were very beneficial to talk to and help you through it in kind of maybe key moments? I'm not so sure. Like, those people pop up in different ways, and I remember the day that I didn't call it, but I said I'm injured here, like, and there's a realisation moment. I spoke to Jonny Holland, because he probably saw me hiding behind the van, not in the best shape, and he came over to chat to me, and he'd been through a lot of the similar stuff himself. He nearly retired 1 or 2 times, so he probably knew the kind of position I was in. So that helped, definitely. I remember having a phone call with Sean O'Brien, because that actually came from the chat with Jonny Holland, because he had gone through his hamstring trouble, and Paulie obviously retired with a hamstring, so I spoke to him intermittently. But I don't know if anyone can ever get you over it by speaking to you. They can help you with certain things, but I definitely have the opinion that I had to get over it myself. Like, it was my issue, and it was my life that's been kind of torn apart to some degree. So I had to find my own path and kind of get over it my own way. So like that, I wouldn't like to say people didn't help me at all, but I definitely took a lot more from my family and my friends than I did from any one individual. As a public figure, it's something that I try to just. People would offer, like, through Irupa you might be able to speak to somebody, or I can't remember, there was 1 or 2 kind of offers being thrown out there that I can speak to somebody that might help, and I kind of said, fair enough, but I'm probably just going to deal with this myself. Like, I think everything you've said, though, a lot of the stuff you've said on the journey, again, going back to you are pretty self-sufficient, and
Yeah.
it seems like you will mentally figure stuff out yourself and get an approach and develop your own process to how to actually get over this and anything, I suppose.
Probably a bit of it, to be fair. Like, and I'll probably battle my own thoughts as opposed to tell them to somebody else until I have to. But I just wouldn't like to trouble somebody with the situation when I can deal with it myself.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So now the world is around nutrition.
Yeah.
Again, reading, you said you, quote unquote, you called yourself a smaller guy, so nutrition was always a part of what you wanted to do, or it was a natural area to go into, maybe.
Yeah. Like, since I was probably 16, 17, I started to take a lot of interest in nutrition because it's just something I find fascinating anyway. But it's definitely, being a smaller guy, you had to bulk up, and the only way to do it is by getting interested in the best ways to do it. And you can't just leave it to chance. I wasn't going to just grow overnight. I wasn't one of those guys. Yeah. So I definitely took a massive interest in it, and that went throughout. Like, it goes from being a smaller guy to a bigger guy, but also how you fuel things and getting the best out of your own performance. I would have tried to change small things to see if they would make a bit of a difference to me on the pitch. And it's I probably got a bit obsessed with that as well.
Yeah. But what percentage of your performance would you even put down to good nutrition? Or
I'm not sure you can really quantify it, because you just have to make sure you try and get as much knowledge as you can and implement it as best you can, and the performance will look after itself. I wouldn't have cared if that was 90% rugby, 10% nutrition, or the other way around. It didn't bother me as much as I tick the box. I don't like saying tick the boxes. It sounds like a negative way, but definitely in a more positive way, to tick all the right boxes and then get out and perform, and you've done something positively during the week that affected your performance. That, like, you take off your kicking, you take off your nutrition and your recovery, and you go out and you try and perform as best you can. If it didn't go well for you, you probably assess the rugby first, and if that was not the issue, then you probably have to assess something else. But try and just get enough areas right during the week. I was happy enough once I played well that I did them as best I could during the week,
Yeah. So it was applied sports and exercise and nutrition is the qualification that you're doing. And like a typical day in the life now, I know you still have the 9 to 5, so it's kind of the bookends of your day is probably where you're trying to develop and build that up. What does it look like nowadays?
I was just speaking to people that want to better themselves in terms of nutrition and body composition and fueling performance as well. So I'll have some clients now where I'd give them kind of food questionnaires, maybe meet them face to face or online, and have a chat through their habits and try and change a couple of habits here and there. And it depends on the kind of person that they are. If they're real structured, then you might give them a meal plan of exactly what to eat, because some people want that, but other people just don't want a meal plan. And that's probably the way forward for most people eventually, once they get comfortable enough with their nutrition that they make decisions based on something. So just try and implement a few nice habits and improvements that they can have gradually, and educate them around it as well. So when I do the questionnaire with them, when I meet them and speak about what they've been up to, I'll put together some sort of a plan for them, and then I'll put an educational piece beside it where I kind of explain what I've done or what they can improve on. And it might be for performance, for sport, it might just be for going to the gym, or it might be just to get in better nick. And it doesn't really bother me which one they want to do, but being able to help is the main aim for me.
Cool. Is it surprising how little people know about nutrition?
At times, like even speaking to some of the professionals that I played with, having a pre-match meal, and you'll be having a talk about who's eating what. Oh, geez, you can't eat that. And it's like, why not? So even with cons still, the lads would laugh at they thought I was going to get rid of the pancakes and ice cream before a game, because all of a sudden, like, they didn't take me seriously
before a game.
They didn't take me seriously as a nutritionist before my website went up, but all of a sudden the website went up and they were kind of watching me being around the food, and they thought the pancakes and ice cream were going to disappear. But I was kind of like, that's there for a reason. Like, it's good for you before a game to fuel what's coming. Like, so there's certain ways of doing it.
Okay, cool. Last 5 minutes, Johnny, so we just go through some kind of rapid fire ones.
Yeah.
You've been prepared for these. I won't ask you anything too hard. And just share some of your experiences as well. Time management and productivity, how do you approach that? And I think you're going to have a lot of good ones here, judging by your structure.
I'm big into time management, and if you can, even something very practical, preparing your food for the week. If you're boiling some eggs, don't watch them boil and sit there and wait for them to be done. Start cooking your chicken and vegetables and stuff while it's boiling. That's stuff that I hate when people waste time. It just gets to me. And even time management for myself, like time is something that makes me really anxious anyway. If I'm never late for something, I try not to be anyway.
Yeah, you were on time here today, actually.
Yeah, I was trying to not be too early. I'm always too early anyway sometimes. So on the button is the new aim for me. But you're taught that through the academy anyway. If I don't know what would you say if you're 5 minutes early or 10 minutes late, because you had to be 15 minutes early for everything.
Right.
So that kind of was ingrained in me a small bit. But even if I'm going for a meal with Chloe and it's booked for 7 o'clock, if I'm not there for 10 to 5 to 7, we're late. Like, and she doesn't care. Like, she'll be 5 minutes late for everything, which gets on my nerves. Then I'm trying to get there early. It's only a meal. Like, nobody cares if you're early or late. But it'll start getting on top of me if we're running it a few minutes late. Like,
I like that one because I think I've got into the habit of doing more multitasking when I'm cooking as well, because there's that 20 minutes while you're waiting for something to heat up. You can do so many other things.
Even if it's not cooking, you can be doing something else that you have to get done, you know. So
as long as the place doesn't go on fire.
But I had to try and work on not being too early for things, because I'd be a half an hour early sitting there waiting for someone, wasting my own time when I could get something done, and also wondering where the fuck they are. I'd literally be like, where are they? And if they look at my watch, being like, they don't even have to be here yet, you know. They still have 20 minutes. Like,
it's interesting. People are just, I don't know, that's a born thing, I'd imagine. In some ways that they're more likely to be early, and they're very precise around that versus
my mum would be always sitting there looking at you 20 minutes before she said she made the time to go, and she'll still be looking at you, are you not ready yet? And if she's asking me when I'm going to be ready, then you know she's even earlier than I am. So that's probably where I get it from.
That's where you get it from. Work-life balance at the moment is probably full on. That's a good thing, I'd imagine. Do you like being busy? Or
I have to be busy, I think, especially with the last year or two of my life. I've had to be busy. When I've stopped and stayed still, I freak out, questioning things. So the busier the better for me at the moment, even though I get quite busy then, and I do need a day to relax a small bit. But the minute I plan that and start relaxing, I'm looking for the next thing to do. So when I say relax, I'm probably not really that relaxed. Going to the gym for me is a relaxed day. So
that's what you would consider to relax. Do you what other things where you're actually not expelling energy, I suppose, to relax? Do you read? Do you kind of meditate? Meditate is something I'm big into. I talk to a lot of people about that.
I got into that when I was recovering and stuff. I probably don't do much of it anymore. But I watch TV like a normal person. But I try and get my work done and enough done to kind of settle my mind, and then I'll sit down and watch TV with Chloe for a while. I probably don't watch too much TV on my own unless it's a match, but I'll watch it with Chloe, and that's the way to unwind and try and relax a small bit. Even though I might be thinking all sorts of other things while I'm watching it, but most of the time I am able to sit down and chill out. And I try and read, but I'm a bit busy now that I'm probably rushing to bed, or trying to find time for other people as well. And then the sleep was probably better for me than learning something from a book at the moment. So try and get back into it again, but trying to relax is tough sometimes. So I need to get my sleep so I don't get run down and sick and all the rest of it.
Routines, I think routine is probably a big thing for you. Like morning routine, do you get up early? Do you have a certain things that you have to get done every day? Do you have a methodical approach to your day?
No, I think my routine at the moment is just like I don't have to do certain things, but I go to the gym in the morning before work, so I suppose that is a routine. My routine is based around meals, what time I do everything. That was always the way it was, certain meals at certain times, but I don't have to get anything done in a specific order at the moment. But for a good while there, if I hadn't gone to the gym first thing, I couldn't think of anything else. I have to go to the gym, so that's maybe one of them. But I am able to not go to the gym and have a normal day. But I definitely need, if I'm going to be going, I need to do that first thing. Okay,
just to pick up on the meals piece then, so as a tip, I suppose, eating your meals at a certain time every day, or what is the best approach? I think to do that?
It's whatever suits you, but like there's a reason we have dinner time, lunch time, breakfast time is all very structured and has been forever. But so I would be someone that likes to have my dinner at a certain time. Now when you get busier and things are out of your control, you can't do that, but it's always going to be a certain part of the evening, or lunchtime is always and has always been 1 o'clock. So I like to keep it kind of structured like that, and space my meals out kind of evenly. But if you can't do that, it's not the end of the world.
Nevin Maguire, when he was on, I think he said try not to eat after 7 p.m. in the evening. I'm not too sure about it. No?
There's a lot of things about eating most of your food earlier in the day, but I think if you're
that kind of inverted pyramid, like where you have your biggest meal is your breakfast and stuff.
Is it eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper? I'm not so sure about it. Like, I think for most people and the average person, if they just get the amount of food right in a day, it doesn't really matter when you eat it. But if you're eating a big dinner late at night and you've had a big lunch, a big breakfast and a lot of snacks in between, then the big dinner is the last one that you've had. So that's the one that's tipping you over the edge in terms of your total calories or whatever it is. So people like to single that one out as the one to put the fat on you, but it's probably what you've had throughout the whole day as opposed to that one last meal. Like, so I wouldn't be like, a lot of people say don't eat after 6 and don't eat after 7, which is complete spoof, but it's like, what if someone trains at 8 o'clock at night? Can they not eat? You know, so that's where my approach would be very individual. You can't just tell someone not to eat after 7. Like, you know, you have to kind of get into their routine and what works best for them. And if they just don't like having food at a certain stage, and they're going to have to get it in at some stage, and just working on how they can make a few improvements, you know. So unless you've got the total amount of calories right, I wouldn't be going into timings too much. Okay.
And then how does sleep tie into, is there kind of correlation between sleep and nutrition and how you kind of connect?
Yeah, there's a lot of things around. If you don't get enough sleep, then you're going to be craving different foods and hormone imbalances and things like that. Like, sleep is very tightly correlated to which hormones you're releasing and how you grow and recover during your sleep. So there is it's not something I've gotten too into yet. It is an area of interest, but I need to sort out my own sleep before I can go preaching about someone else's. There you know, you can say if you don't sleep too as many hours in the night that you're going to be craving something, but that's down to yourself. I could probably sleep, like I am interested in sleep and how much you recover during it, and I try and get as much as I can, but I wouldn't go and snack on a load of sugar the next day because I didn't get enough sleep. I just ignore it. I don't get that craving, I don't think. Some people might, some people don't, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm fascinated about sleep and the whole psychology and what people do around it. Like, just one or two more pieces of advice that sticks out that you might have been given, or I always say, or that you maybe even give.
Put the head down and work hard, and don't expect anything to be given to you. Is probably something that I'd try and live by or teach people as well. Like, the newer crop, the newer generation think they're going to be handed games in rugby. They think they're going to be given jobs, and nobody's really.
You're not part of that newer crop.
No,
you're a millennial.
No, I'm too old now for that.
Oh God,
there's another separation between me and the next crew.
Right,
but I think there's maybe with my own peers as well. People think that you just don't have to work hard for things anymore, and you certainly do. Just because some people can work online and they've got an easier situation that they've built themselves doesn't mean they didn't work hard for it. And I think we look at these people who are social media famous and they've got easy situations. It wasn't easy forever. Like, they've done something to get there. So you definitely have to work hard for everything you get.
So work hard. Values systems are important to me, and I'm pretty clear on that. I talked to a lot of people about that. I imagine work ethic is very important to you. Based on what you were saying, you're quite humble, and you know, you don't expect to be given stuff. Any other things you kind of have as your core set of values that you work with?
Niall Scannell mocked me with this one before because I was asked it, and I remember someone saying to me that I just had to be a bit more selfish, and that's not a piece of advice that can go across the board, because some people are too selfish. But just in my own situation, I was probably looking out for too many people and not doing my own thing. So I certainly had to look after myself first, and that was the way forward for me at the time. So it's not a thing about putting yourself first and not helping anybody else, but I was probably, my balance there was wrong, so I had to kind of put my own priorities first and look after myself.
Love yourself first and then love others after it. Yeah, definitely. What success look like for Jonny going forward? What are your kind of your goals, and what does success kind of evoke for you in the future?
The website is the main thing, I suppose. Getting that to be very successful is my main aim, I suppose, and being successful in nutrition, having a certain way about me in nutrition, helping people, would be success for me. It's like, maybe the stage in my life that I'm in has to be some bit financial, but that's not the end goal. It's I like nutrition. I'm very into it, and I'm into helping people. So if that business can be a success financially, it's because I've been successful in terms of how I've dealt with people and kind of put my best foot forward in terms of nutrition and helping coaching.
Cool. And in the coaching world, I know you're working with Cork now. Is that an area you see down the road getting more into now?
I don't know. It's something that I'll kind of take season by season now.
Yeah.
I've definitely enjoyed, like I did a bit last season with the under-20s, and it gave me a bit of a taste for it, and it's nice to be able to see someone doing something that you've tried to help them with, or little subtleties in their play that you might have spoken to them during the week, even if you see a backline move that you might have asked the lads to run, and if there's a try from it, you get a lot of satisfaction from it. So it's something that it can be quite frustrating as well, but the pieces that work give you like such a kind of enjoyment factor as well, that I'll just take it like season by season and see if it's something for me. But I wouldn't be really caught up in the fact that I have to be a professional coach now. Like it's nowhere near one of my top goals. It's more nutrition based and kind of coaching lifestyle and stuff like that, as opposed to rugby. But it's definitely something I'm enjoying and growing more into.
Very good. Brilliant. Jonny, look, thanks so much. We're coming up near the hour. Before we wrap up, you talked about the website. You were reluctant to give the address out, so go for that now, or how people can get directly in touch with you. As I said, I think half the listeners of this show are actually not Irish. They're across the States, and so that's hopefully, people can get in touch because you do it online. And you can do it from anywhere. So
it's jonnyholland10.com, and the email is contact@jonnyholland10.com. But it's certainly something that can be done face to face or online. You can, there's always a video, Skype or FaceTime or whatever like that. So I've done a bit of that now with a few people. So it's definitely something you can do remotely, and something I'll try and get a bit more into. So that's
brilliant.
the one.
And you're on Instagram and Twitter and all of those good things.
Jonny Holland 10, Twitter Jonny Holland 10. So trying to keep it consistent.
Yeah, it's hard actually to get the consistent name across the social platforms.
I had the Jonny Holland 10 on my Twitter and my Instagram anyway, so that's probably why I went into my website being the same, just to keep it easy
keep
to find.
All the same.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for doing that, Jonny.
Thanks for the
chat. Spending your Sunday morning away from Mass and going through this, so I'll be putting it out in the near future, and look forward to getting some feedback on it, and massive upsurge in my Instagram following compared to you anyway. So good man, thanks.
Very good, thanks very much.
Cheers. How was that? Did you enjoy it? I hope so. If you did, please like, share, and do all that other good stuff that only takes a second on social media but means an awful lot to me as it spreads the reach. You can get the details from the show in the show notes on the website robofthegreen.ie. In there you can share the show out with others. I really just want to touch on 3 other quick things. 1, feedback. I learned so much from it. Without it, I can't improve. Please give me a bit of feedback, positive, negative, constructive. Would you recommend a book? Do you have any other ideas for guests? How about more video? Let me know what you want and I can make it happen. I will try. That's number 1. Number 2, sharing is caring. This year I'm making more of an effort to try and expand the reach. Facebook, there's a page and there's a group. The 1% Better community on Facebook is where I really hope new listeners go to, share ideas, comments, in general things that they could help others with. That's what it's there for. Follow me on Spreaker.com, that's the new host. I'm on Twitter, growing not exponentially at all, but slowly, so please follow there. I'm on Instagram, all of these are at Rob of the Green. LinkedIn, Rob O'Donoghue. Get in touch, would love to hear from you. Number 3 is about support. So I'm offering a few hours a month, pro bono, free coaching to those that can't afford it, that need some coaching, that want some coaching. If you go to the website, the support page, click on the pro bono link. On the flip side of that, where you guys can support me, go to patreon.com, the Rob of the Green page. You can make a donation there. You can get access to exclusive content, which I'm adding all the time. That would be awesome. Anything you contribute will go back into the show to make it better, make it more than 1% better. Also, there's the option to buy one of those books that were recommended through the website, which will bring you to Amazon, which will get you the normal links, which will get you the books at the normal price, but supposedly Amazon will give the show a small donation every time a book is purchased, or anything for that matter, which is great. So finally, I just wanted to say thanks so much for listening. I know it's difficult to make improvements, to push things forward, to get outside your comfort zone. I'm trying to do it all the time. I hope that every listen and every show and every guest that is on gives you something to take away that you could apply, adopt, and adapt into your own life to create a new habit, to make something better. Don't overreach. Small improvements, 1% is enough. And thank yourself for making the time to listen to the show. It shows you're interested in learning, improving, and getting better, even if it's just 1% at a time. Have a great day and good luck.